Satoru Gojo's presence in the world of Jujutsu Kaisen is one that nobody else can currently replicate. However, many fans often discuss the potential between several characters who may one day have the power to take on Gojo's mantle. Oftentimes most discussed at all the candidates is none other than Yuta Okotsu. With Yuta spike in popularity last year starting in his display in Sendai Colony and recently officially recognized in a poll ran by Shonen Jump, I thought it would be a good idea to cover why Yuta Okotsu cannot be the next Satoru Gojo. I want to preface this by saying that this video is in no way to undermine or underrate Yuta's strength, but rather to contrast his skill in comparison to the strongest himself. With that being said, to fully understand the position Yuta would supposedly operate, let's first get into Gojo's impact on the world. Gojo's effect on the world begins almost immediately after his birth. December 7th, 1989, his birth is said to be the day where the Jujutsu world itself changed. Through Awasaka's perspective, we see how the world was before someone like Gojo existed. Back then, Awasaka explains that there was a shortage of Jujutsu sorcerers. This allowed cursed users to live as selfishly as they wanted, running around causing mayhem. Awasaka was later informed that a kid with the 6 eyes had a bounty for over 100 million. Later, we see Awasaka just enjoying the view from his apartment, and with his gaze alone, Gojo struck absolute fear into Awasaka, taking away the freedom they had. At that moment, he understood why. The reason why, it's because of him, it's because of Satoru Gojo. It's like when a seemingly unbeatable track and field record gets broken, or when figure skaters suddenly have to add one more spin to their jumps due to a single athlete's prowess. When Satoru Gojo was born, the balance of the world itself was altered. This just goes to show that even as a kid, Gojo's impact on the world was immense. The year is 2006, and as a teenager, Gojo was still studying at Jujutsu High with his two classmates Suguru Geto and Shoko. After being assigned a mission to escort the Star Plasma vessel, Toji Fushiguro is given a job to kill that same vessel. Toji, who instead of immediately heading his way to kill the vessel and claim the 30 million yen for the job, he instead uses the funds to place a bounty on the vessel, and when asked by an agent of the employers why even hire Toji if they could have just done the same thing from the start, he explains that they have Gojo on their side, and he's the first in 100 years to wield both the 6 eyes and the limitless curse technique. As long as he's with her, no one will be able to take out the Star Plasma vessel. The agent of the employers then asks if that includes Toji, and Toji says that that's a good question. Because of this, he chooses to wear Gojo down, using the people who will attempt to collect the bounty for the next 47 hours to tire out Gojo. Even as a teenager, he's perceived as extremely strong just for wielding the 6 eyes and limitless alone, making someone like Toji, who's also nicknamed Sorcerer Killer many times, and who hasn't seen Gojo since he was a small kid, question his ability to complete the job. This is just to demonstrate how powerful of a status Gojo had in the world at only 16 years old, the same age as Yuta by the way when he first became a sorcerer. Only 1 year later, 2007, and Gojo continues to hone his curse technique. Last year, he had been worn down by Toji due to him having to constantly focus on keeping his limitless curse technique active for days straight. Nowadays, Gojo has solved this issue by introducing a targeting system to his infinity. This targeting system can now distinguish threats by sensing the intensity of cursed energy, mass, speed, and shape, all while using minimum resources to keep it up and active. With also now achieving the ability to use reverse curse technique, he keeps his brain fresh at all times, making strain not an issue for Gojo anymore. In combination with training his other abilities for the limitless, Satoru Gojo became the strongest and also became a special grid. This is all super important because it lets us see the type of person Gojo is, the type of person that won't stop training until he's the strongest. As an adult, Gojo only became more crucial to the stability of the Jujutsu world. His strength alone gave him the ability to enter the Gojo clan into part of the 3 big Jujutsu families. The fanbook elaborates a little further, explaining that the Gojo clan operates almost entirely through Gojo Satoru alone, and the fate of the Jujutsu world rests on his shoulders. Not only does his strength give him immense fighting power to operate, but political power as well. His political effect on the world is best displayed after he's sealed. When Gojo disappears, his effects on the world become undone. Decisions to execute sorcerers previously vetoed by him become undone as well. Gojo has saved many people, and with him gone, the crooked higher-ups have no reason to abide by those decisions. Gojo expressed before that the higher-ups do certain things to keep their traditions and status. He could kill all the higher-ups if he wanted to, but it would only result in a new evil taking their place. Instead, he decides the political route is better for achieving his goals, training a new generation of sorcerers who won't be limited to special grid. With his disappearance, this plan may never come to fruition. After the events of Shibuya, Gojo was falsely defamed a criminal and accomplice in the Shibuya incident, and the unsealing of Gojo has also been deemed a criminal act. Yaga, his teacher, was also deemed falsely a criminal for inciting him and Geto to causing the Shibuya incident, and Yuji, his student, was also put back on the execution list after being previously removed because of none other than Gojo's decision alone. The higher-ups are quick to reverse all the good Gojo's done for the world politically, and they're making sure it stays that way. Many also cower in fear and hide because of Gojo's existence. Like we covered earlier, when Gojo was born, the balance of power changed. With Gojo gone, that change has become undone, and the balance will collapse. Those who stayed in the shadows because of him will come out, curse users and spirits alike. Awasaka, who we mentioned already, has regained the freedom he lost, and the effect of nearly everything Gojo has done for the world is seemingly disappearing. The equalizer on both fronts of the Jujutsu world has vanished, and we clearly see Yuta isn't enough to restore that balance. To further explain, I'll give a quick rundown of all of Yuta's more important moments to provide context for the reasoning later in this video. We're first introduced to Yuta in Volume 0, a kid who's fully recognized his path leading to his own execution and hopeless to bring any light to the world. Yuta possesses a curse spirit named Rika, which nearly immediately grants him a resistance to curses and the rank special grade. This is the highest achievable rank in the world of Jujutsu, and attaining special grade at only 16 makes him the youngest special grade ever, with the second being Satoru Gojo and third being Suguru Geto, who both became special grade at 17. Gojo explains that if one day Yuta can control Rika, he'd be able to use her power to help people. On the first mission with Maki, Yuta finds himself trapped in the belly of a curse spirit. To save Maki and the other two children, he uses his ring to channel Rika's power for the first time, and intentionally, Yuta fully manifests Rika, and Rika absolutely destroys the curse spirit and even freaks out Gojo a little bit. A 3-month time skip happens, and we see Yuta doing actual Jujutsu training. We learn that curses are most stable when possessing an item, and Yuta's connection to Rika is through his ring. Gojo gives Yuta a sword instead and explains that Yuta needs to channel her power through the sword bit by bit till he can fully channel Rika's energy and master it. So he continues to train with Maki, and considering that she's extremely experienced with using tools, it's no wonder why she's the perfect training partner for Yuta. While training, Panda and Gojo both note that Yuta's grown a lot more positive and that he's moving a lot better just before Yuta got blitzed and taken down by Maki. The next important moment for Yuta in Volume 0 is the war Geto waged with Jujutsu High. Geto explains that if he kills Yuta and takes control of Rika, his odds of ending the war in a victory skyrocket from a mere 30% to 99%. This shows us how powerful of a force Rika is and the potential Yuta could have. Later, after seeing his teammates Panda and Toge beaten up and unconscious, in a fit of rage, Yuta completely manifests his special grade vengeful spirit Rika for the second time. Geto and Yuta begin to fight. Grabbing his teammates while dodging Geto's cursed spirit attack, Yuta is able to take Maki and Toge and Panda to safety and displays a very impressive and underrated feat. Yuta is able to use reverse curse technique to heal his teammates. During the Shibuya incident, Principal Yaga explains when speaking to Shoko, Jujutsu High's doctor, that not even Satoru Gojo himself could replicate this feat, implying that much skill with RCT is required before you can actually heal other people. The fanbook elaborates a little bit further, listing all the people who can use reverse curse technique specifically to heal other people. Shoko, Jujutsu High's doctor, who's literally been using RCT since 2006, before Gojo was even special grade, Sukuna, the king of curses, and Yuta, who hasn't even been a sorcerer for a full year. After saving his teammates, he returns back to the fight with Suguru, and then Yuta does something none of us expected. Telling Rika let's use that, he summons a megaphone with the Inumaki curse sigil, and for the first time, Yuta reveals his curse technique, Copy. After copying Inumaki's curse speech and commanding Geto's curses to all literally die, they all explode instantly, which leaves Geto stunned. Geto explains that Rika's true form is actually an endless spirit of cursed energy. When we cut back to the fight, Geto explains to Yuta that because of the passion he's feeling, it's causing his body to surge with cursed energy. He tells Yuta that the result of this is an increase in physical ability, a quote almighty feeling, and now his 5 senses are finely tuned. This new Yuta now runs at Geto but is immediately knocked back. When Yuta regains his balance, he says that he's starting to get the hang of it, and almost immediately when launching back at Geto, we see improvement. Geto even admits that Yuta's getting faster, and when Yuta finally gets behind Geto, he ignites his blade and swings it, but it shatters on impact. Geto says that this was because he imbued it with too much CE at once. Yuta then punches Geto so hard he begins to bleed. Geto gets up and the final scene of this fight begins to roll. Geto uses the last of his spirits to conjure up an Uzumaki, his maximum attack. Geto says that it's good that he came to kill Yuta now before he mastered Rika, implying that he would have had much greater struggle against the Yuta with time to master Rika. Yuta then grabs Rika and promises that all he wants is to beat up Geto, and then after that he'll be all hers. Rika then awakens, and Geto explains that what Yuta has just done is that he sacrificed himself to surpass the limit of cursed energy. Yuta then begins to build up his own blast to counter Geto's Uzumaki and the two fire. Yuta overpowers Geto's blast, and nearly half of Geto's body is destroyed in the process. After the events of Volume 0, Yuta leaves overseas with Miguel. The next time we see Yuta return to the main story isn't until after the Shibuya incident. While conducting a meeting with the higher-ups, Yuta clearly isn't strong enough to oppose their authority right now. Yuta is forced to enter a binding vow to gain their trust, and while Gojo might not have had their trust, his power was enough to weigh in on decisions. When Gojo explains his dream to reset this Jujutsu world, it's by building up his students to oppose the higher-ups. While Yuta is one of those students, Gojo was steeled prematurely. Gojo explains that he needs to foster these allies and develop them into strong sorcerers. Because Gojo's gone, that development has stopped. Not to say that in the time overseas or in between JJK Volume 0 and now he didn't grow in strength, but rather that growing power has mostly stopped since his return. while the Yuta in Volume 0 only kept growing in power drastically. After Yuta's fight with Ishigori explains to Yuta that he's already reaching his limit. He tells Yuta that what surpasses the horizon of sorcerers, cursed spirits, and strong fighters is an overwhelming sense of aggression that disregards all else like a calamity. Sukuna himself references something similar during his fight with Jogo in chapter 116. Sukuna explains that humans flocking together and curses flocking together, comparing themselves to those around them, leads to weakness and stunts their growth. He tells Jogo that he should have burnt everything to a cinder to reach the heights of Satoru Gojo and not worry about his future or identity. Yuta, who relies on his relationship with Rika for his main source of power, does not relate to this at all, and this could be one of the things holding back Yuta from surpassing his limits that Ishigori mentions. Gojo was someone who constantly grew in power until he became the strongest. If Yuta is already reaching his limit, I don't know if he'd ever be able to become powerful enough to act as the Gojo for the Jujutsu World. Kenjaku explains that he doesn't see anything special in Yuta either, and he's sorry to say, but Yuta Okotsu cannot be the next Satoru Gojo. Keep in mind, Kenjaku has all of the memories from the Geto and Yuta fight we mentioned earlier. After Gojo's sealed and the world seemingly falls apart, even with Yuta's return, nothing changes. Yuta Okotsu is very strong for a special grade, but like I said, he won't be strong enough to become the next Satoru Gojo. This was my very first video on the channel, so I'd appreciate some feedback in the comment section. If you enjoyed this type of content and you want to see more of it, hit that like and subscribe button, and thank you for watching.